My name is Cynthia. I'm 28 years old. If you looked at my life from the outside, you'd think I had it all figured out: a stable career, a boyfriend who adored me, and a family that always said family comes first. I believed that for most of my life. Until one random morning, a single email proved that everything I trusted was a lie. Sarah and I used to be inseparable. She's my younger sister, 26, the artistic one, the one who painted her walls with constellations and believed the world would bend to her passion. I was the planner, the rational one, the one who always cleaned up after her messes. Growing up in a tiny house, we shared more than a room. We shared secrets, midnight talks, and the unshakable belief that no matter what, we'd protect each other. Our parents drilled that into us from the start. Family above everything. They said it like a prayer, like a rule carved into stone. But I've learned that rules only matter when everyone follows them. I met Ryan in college. He was 29 at the time, confident in a quiet way that made me feel safe. He wasn't flashy or loud. He just had this calmness about him, like nothing could rattle him. We bonded over books, both of us the kind of people who could spend hours dissecting a single line from a novel. He made me feel seen in a way I didn't even know I needed. After I graduated, Ryan and I moved in together. Our apartment was small, creaky floors, mismatched furniture, but it felt like ours. We'd talk about the future, about marriage, and the kind of life we wanted to build. He'd tease me about how I labeled every kitchen jar, and I'd roll my eyes when he left socks everywhere. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Sarah visited often. She'd sit cross-legged on our couch, talking to Ryan about art bands and people I'd never heard of. I thought it was sweet that they got along. Ryan wasn't the easiest person to warm up to, and Sarah had that gift she could charm anyone. Sometimes I'd come home from work and find them laughing together in the kitchen, her hair tied up in that messy bun, him leaning against the counter relaxed. I'd smile and think, good, my two favorite people get along. How stupidly proud I was of that. It happened on a Thursday, the day everything fell apart. I was rushing for a big presentation and realized halfway to work that I'd left my flash drive at home. Panic set in. I called Sarah, she was staying with us that week, while looking for a new apartment. Hey, can you do me a huge favor? I said, trying to sound calm, even though I could feel my pulse racing. Sure, what's up? She replied, cheerful as ever. I left my presentation files on my flash drive. Can you send them to me? Please, they're on my desk. No problem, she said. I'll email them in a few minutes. Relief. I thanked her, hung up, and dove back into work. An hour later, I got the email. The subject line read Ryan. For a second, I didn't even process it. I just assumed she'd mislabeled it. I opened the message, expecting my files. Instead, I found something else, a half-written draft, the kind of email you delete and pretend never existed. The first line made my stomach drop. I can still feel you from last night. I froze. My brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe it was to someone else. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe anything. But then I saw his name, Ryan. I clicked through the attached thread. Messages? Dozens of them. Photos. Private jokes. Late-night confessions. 6 months of lies. One line burned into my brain. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Last night was perfect. I read that over and over until the words blurred. Last night, the night I'd stayed late preparing my pitch, thinking Ryan was home watching TV and Sarah was out with friends. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook so hard I dropped my phone. The office buzzed around me. Phones ringing, keys clacking, but it all felt distant, muffled. For a long time, I just sat there staring at my reflection in the black screen. A part of me still whispered, no, not them, not her. But it was them. It was both of them. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember locking my car. I just remember the sound of my heartbeat in my ears, and the way the world felt tilted wrong, like someone had kicked the foundation out from under me. When I pushed open the door, Ryan was sitting on the couch, calm, relaxed, smiling at the TV. For 1 second, I thought he doesn't even know what's coming. I threw my phone onto the coffee table hard enough that it made him flinch. Explain, I said. My voice sounded foreign, low, and steady, the kind of calm that comes right before something breaks. He blinked. What I pointed to the screen. Read it. His face drained of color as his eyes scanned the messages. His lips parted. It's not what it looks like. I laughed, short, sharp, bitter. Oh, come on, Ryan. It's exactly what it looks like. He stammered something about mistakes, about being confused, about late-night talks turning into something they didn't mean. Every word felt like another knife twisting in my chest. 6 months, I whispered. You had 6 months to stop, and you didn't. He looked down, shame painting his face pale. I'm sorry, Cynthia. I swear I never wanted to hurt you. That's when I realized something I'll never forget. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. Get out, I said quietly. Now. He hesitated, and that made me angrier. Ryan, get out before I start screaming. He left. No fight, no explanation. Just grabbed his jacket and walked out the door. When the silence settled, I could hear my own breathing. Harsh. Broken. But I wasn't done, because there was still Sarah. I grabbed my keys numb, my vision blurry from tears I refused to let fall. She opened the door before I even knocked, like she knew. Like she'd been waiting. Her eyes were red. She didn't even try to lie. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't mean for it to happen. Then she added the one thing that shattered me completely. But I love him. For a second, everything in me went quiet. The room, the air, the world, all silent. I turned away before she could see me fall apart. That was the day I lost them both, my partner, my sister, and every belief I ever had about love and family. As I drove aimlessly through the night, city lights blurring into streaks of gold, one thought kept echoing in my head. Family comes first. But what if they're the ones who ruin you? I don't remember sleeping that night. I just remember sitting in my car until the sky turned gray, watching the city wake up while my own world collapsed. My phone kept lighting up Ryan, then Sarah, then Mom, all names I couldn't bear to see. By the time I dragged myself home, the apartment looked different. The air felt heavier, the walls closer. It smelled like him, like that cologne I used to love but now wanted to burn. He was there, Ryan, sitting on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were bloodshot. Cynthia, please. He started standing slowly like he was afraid I'd run. I didn't move. You shouldn't be here. I need you to hear me out. I've heard enough. He took a step closer, voice shaking. I know I messed up, but it wasn't like what I snapped. Like betrayal. Like cheating on me with my own sister. Go on, finish the sentence. He stopped. His mouth opened, then closed again. You want to know what hurts the most? I said, my voice trembling. That you looked me in the eye every day and said you loved me. You kissed me while sneaking around with her. You planned a future with me while destroying it behind my back. Ryan's jaw tightened. It didn't start that way, he muttered. She was lonely. I was stressed. We just connected. You were always so focused on work, and I... Don't you dare blame me for your lack of self-control, I cut in. You had choices, Ryan, and you chose her. He flinched like the word itself hurt. Silence filled the room, the kind of silence that hums in your ears. I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to cry in front of him. Finally, I pointed toward the door. Take whatever you need, then get out. He didn't argue. He grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed it with clothes, and stopped by the door. Cynthia, he said softly. I swear I never wanted to fall for her. I looked at him, the man I'd built my life around, and felt nothing but exhaustion. Yeah, I whispered. You never wanted to. But you did. When the door clicked shut, I sank to the floor. The quiet felt like a punishment. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone buzzed again. Sarah this time. A text. Please, come talk to me. My first instinct was to throw the phone across the room. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, won. I needed to look her in the eye. I needed to know why. Her apartment smelled like turpentine and cheap candles, the scent of her messy, creative life. Canvases leaned against every wall, paintbrushes soaking in jars. For a second, I remembered being proud of her defending her when our parents called her irresponsible. She looked small when she opened the door. Hoodie, tear-streaked face, trembling hands. Cynthia, she said, voice cracking. I know you hate me. I stepped inside, my arms crossed. That's the smartest thing you've said in months. She winced. I didn't plan it. It just happened. I laughed bitterly. That's what he said too. Did you rehearse that line together? She shook her head, tears spilling. It started as talking. You were working so much and he'd stay up late. I don't know, I just felt seen by my boyfriend. She flinched again. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was heavy electric with pain. Then she whispered, I love him. Those words landed harder the second time, like knives. You love him? I repeated slowly, almost laughing. Sarah, you've loved a dozen people in your life. You loved a musician last month and a barista before that. You don't love him, you just wanted something that was mine. Her face twisted in guilt, but she didn't argue. That silence told me everything. I stared at her, my sister, my best friend, the person I once would have defended against the world, and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. You broke us, I said softly. All of us. Then I turned to leave. As I walked out, Sarah's voice trembled behind me. Cynthia, please don't tell Mom and Dad yet. They'll hate me. I froze. Not because I pitied her, but because that sentence told me exactly who she still was. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. When I got back to my car, I finally let myself cry, the kind of crying that shakes your whole body, the kind you can't stop once it starts. I cried for the life I lost, the love I'd built, and the family I thought I could count on. When I finally caught my breath, I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, my face pale, but I saw something else there, something sharp and new. Resolve. Because if Ryan and Sarah thought they could destroy me and walk away unscathed, they were wrong. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I spent the next few days drifting between anger and emptiness. Emily, my best friend since college, let me crash at her place. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me a blanket, a mug of tea, and let me exist in silence. Sometimes that's all you need, someone who doesn't demand explanations, just space to breathe. Her apartment was small, filled with plants and soft music, everything I needed to not completely fall apart. At night, I'd lie awake on her couch, staring at the ceiling, hearing Ryan's voice in my head, replaying the same words, "It didn't mean to happen." On the third day, my phone buzzed again. Mom, then Dad, then Mom again. I ignored the first few calls, but when the seventh one came in, guilt got the better of me. Maybe they sensed something was wrong. Maybe part of me still believed they'd understand. I answered, Cynthia. Mom's voice flooded through the speaker, breathless, frantic. Where have you been? We've been worried sick. Are you okay? Did something happen to Ryan? Her mentioning his name made my throat close up. Yeah, I said quietly. Something happened to Ryan. What do you mean, she asked, voice shaky. I took a deep breath. He cheated on me. Silence, long, heavy, suffocating. Oh my God, she whispered. Who? I closed my eyes. Sarah. The silence after that was worse. It stretched so long that I checked the screen to make sure she was still on the line. When she spoke again, her voice cracked. Cynthia, are you sure? I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, Mom, I'm sure. I saw the messages. I confronted both of them. They admitted it. I heard her inhale sharply like she was trying not to cry. Dad's voice came in faintly in the background. What's going on? He asked. Mom must have put me on speaker because suddenly I heard both of them. She's saying Ryan and Sarah? Mom couldn't finish the sentence. Dad's voice hardened. That son of a... He stopped himself. How long? 6 months, I said. There was another long pause. Then Dad spoke again, calm but dangerous. I'll handle this. But before I could even ask what he meant, Mom cut in. Her voice softer, almost pleading. Sweetheart, have you talked to your sister since it happened? I froze. Why would I? Because she's family, Mom said quickly. I'm not excusing what she did, but you two have always been close. Maybe if you just talk. Talk! I laughed, but it came out sharp and broken. Mom, she slept with my boyfriend. What exactly do you think there is to talk about? I know Mom said, her tone trembling, but she's still your sister. You can't just cut her out. My chest tightened. Yes, I can, and I have. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother's right, Cynthia. You don't have to forgive her today, but don't do anything you'll regret. Sarah's family. Someday when the anger fades, you'll want your sister back. I pressed my fingers into my temples, trying to stay calm. Do you two even hear yourselves? I was betrayed by both of them, and you're worried about keeping the family together. Family is all we have, Dad said firmly. No, I said. Family is supposed to protect you, and you're protecting her. Mom's voice softened. She's not handling this well either. She knows she hurt you, but she's been crying nonstop. She said she misses you. Stop, my voice cracked. Don't you dare make me feel sorry for her. There was a long pause. I could hear Mom sniffling. We just don't want to lose both of you, she said. You already did, I whispered and hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. This was something else. Disbelief, anger, the sting of realizing that the people who raised me to believe family above all else only meant it when it was convenient. Emily found me sitting there silent. She didn't ask, just handed me a glass of water. They didn't take your side, did they? She said quietly. I shook my head. They want me to forgive her, pretend it never happened. Emily frowned. Of course they do. Sarah's always been the fragile one, the one they needed to protect. You're the strong one they assume you'll be fine. Her words hit harder than I expected. It was true. Growing up, Sarah was the one who messed up and got second chances. I was the responsible one who was supposed to understand. I thought back to the time Sarah crashed Dad's car at 19. I'd covered for her, told them it was partly my fault because she panicked. Mom had cried, Dad had sighed, and Sarah got grounded for a week. But me, I was the one who fixed it. I always was. And now, nothing had changed. That night, I stood on Emily's balcony staring at the city lights below. The world looked normal, people laughing in restaurants, cars honking, someone walking their dog, but I felt like a ghost drifting outside of my own life. My family had always said blood was thicker than water. But when your blood betrays you, what does that make you? The wind tugged at my hair as I whispered to no one, family first, until it's not. Time has a strange way of stretching when your life falls apart. The days at Emily's blurred together, coffee gone cold on the table. Muted phone notifications, I couldn't bring myself to check sunlight that felt too bright. For a while, I lived in a kind of quiet survival mode. Emily never pushed. She just existed beside me, cooking dinner, forcing me to watch dumb movies, occasionally making me laugh when I least expected it. When I told her one night, I don't think I'll ever trust anyone again, she just smiled softly. You don't have to, she said. Not yet. Just start with trusting yourself again. That sentence stuck with me. After 2 weeks, I finally faced the apartment. Walking back into the space I once called home felt like entering a tomb. The couch where Ryan and I used to fall asleep watching movies, the kitchen counter where Sarah once sat laughing, all of it looked the same, yet poisoned by memory. Emily came with me, bless her. We packed everything in silence. My hands trembled when I picked up the framed photo of Ryan and me at the lake. He had his arm around me, both of us smiling into the camera, his thumb brushing against my shoulder. I placed it face down in the box. By sunset, the apartment was empty. When I closed the door behind me, it didn't feel like I was leaving home. It felt like I was escaping the wreckage of a ship that had already sunk. For a while, I focused on work and therapy. My boss was surprisingly kind when I asked for time off, and my therapist, an older woman with kind eyes and a voice like warm tea, told me something that became my mantra. Forgiveness isn't a gift for them, Cynthia. It's freedom for you when you're ready. I wasn't ready, not yet, but I was learning how to breathe again. It was around that time I met Alex. A mutual friend invited me to a small get-together. I almost said no. The idea of pretending to be fine around strangers sounded exhausting. But Emily insisted. You don't have to flirt, she said. Just come and remember what laughter sounds like. Alex wasn't the loudest person in the room, but he had that kind of presence you notice without trying. Tall, dark hair eyes that seemed to listen before he spoke. When I laughed at one of his ridiculous dog stories, it caught me off guard, a real laugh, one that came from somewhere I thought was gone. We started meeting up for coffee. No pressure, no expectations. I told him early on, I'm not looking for anything. He nodded, smiling gently. That's fine. I'm just looking for good company. That's what I liked about him. He never pushed. With Ryan, I'd always felt like I had to be the calm one, the caretaker, the adult in the room. With Alex, silence was comfortable. One night after dinner, we walked along the river. The city lights shimmered on the water. He asked softly, Do you ever miss them? Sometimes I admitted, but not who they are now. Just who I thought they were. He nodded, not judging, just understanding. Months passed. Slowly, the nightmares faded. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I wasn't good, but it helped. My therapist said it was my way of taking back color. And then one evening, Alex proposed. It wasn't grand or dramatic, just us in his small apartment, a pizza box between us and him saying, I want to build something honest with you. I cried. Not because of the ring, but because for the first time in a long while, I felt safe. My parents were happy for me, or so I thought. But even before I finished telling them about the engagement, my mother's voice trembled. That's wonderful, sweetheart, she said, and then softly added, Have you thought about inviting Sarah to the wedding? The words hit me like a slap. I almost laughed. Mom, please don't start this again. I'm just saying. She's still your sister. It might be a good opportunity to what I interrupted, pretend nothing happened. There was silence on the other end. Then Dad spoke calm as ever. You've built a new life, Cynthia. Maybe part of that means finding peace with the old one. That sentence lingered long after the call ended. I wanted to scream, peace doesn't erase betrayal. For weeks I tried to ignore it, focused on wedding plans, on happiness, on the future. But every time I called my parents, Sarah's name slipped into the conversation like poison. She's struggling, Mom said one night. She's been through a lot, you know. Yeah, I said quietly, because of what she did. Mom sighed. You don't have to forgive her, but keeping this wall up isn't healthy. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. That night, lying beside Alex, I whispered, "Do you think it's wrong that I still hate them?" He turned to me, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "No," he said softly. "It means you still care. Hate and love, they're both proof you once trusted deeply." Maybe he was right, but I also knew something else my family was about to test that trust one more time. Because if there's one thing I've learned about people who hurt you, it's that they always find their way back, right when you start to heal. The conversation I'd been dreading came sooner than expected. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, the kind of day that should have been peaceful sunlight, spilling through the curtains, soft jazz playing, as I arranged flower samples on the dining table. I thought Mom and Dad were coming over to help with the guest list. Instead, they came armed with guilt folded neatly behind polite smiles. Mom sat across from me, clasping her hands like she was in prayer. Dad poured himself coffee, stirring it slowly, avoiding my eyes. "So," Mom began, her voice syrupy and soft, "we've been thinking—" I braced myself. "We really believe it would be a mistake not to invite Sarah." There it was, the bomb I knew would drop eventually. I let out a humorless laugh. "Mom, we've talked about this. I know she said quickly, but it's been years, Cynthia. She's tried to reach out. She regrets everything. Maybe this wedding could be a fresh start." I stared at her in disbelief. A fresh start. She slept with my fiancé Mom. You don't get to start fresh after that. You get to live with the consequences. Dad finally looked up. "It's your wedding, yes, but it's also a family event. People will notice if she's not there. They'll ask questions." "So that's what this is about," I said quietly. "Appearances." "That's not fair," Mom said, her voice trembling. "We just want the family together. For one day, can't we put the past behind us?" I stood up, pacing. "Put the past behind us. You mean my past? The one that still wakes me up at night? The one that destroyed my trust in everyone, including you?" Mom flinched, tears forming. "You don't mean that." "I do," I said. "Because every time you choose her comfort over my pain, you tell me exactly where I stand." Dad leaned back, sighing heavily. "We're not choosing sides, Cynthia. We're just asking you not to escalate things." "Not escalate," I laughed sharply. "You think I'm the one escalating this?" I didn't sleep with my sister's partner, Dad. The air in the room shifted thick with tension. Mom reached across the table. "Please, sweetheart, think about this. Sarah has been through enough. She's been depressed. She told us she misses you." I pulled my hand back. "Then she can keep missing me." That was when Dad's voice hardened. "Cynthia, if Sarah isn't invited, your mother and I might not come either." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. My stomach dropped. "What did you just say?" He repeated it calm, firm, final. "We won't attend a wedding that divides the family." I stood there frozen, the room spinning slightly. "So you're giving me an ultimatum. Either I invite the woman who betrayed me, or I lose my parents on my wedding day." Mom's tears finally fell. "It's not an ultimatum, honey. We just want what's right." "What's right for who?" I snapped. "Because it sure as hell isn't for me." Emily, who had been upstairs working on decor plans, came down when she heard the shouting. She paused at the doorway, tension crackling in the air. Mom noticed her instantly and straightened her back. "Oh, Emily, maybe you can help us make Cynthia see reason." Emily's eyes narrowed. "Reason? You mean bullying her into inviting the people who broke her?" Dad's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Emily, this is a family matter." "And I'm family too," she said quietly, stepping closer to me. "At least more than some others in this room." That did it. Mom's eyes went cold. "You've always encouraged her to shut us out. You've been a bad influence from the start." I could barely believe what I was hearing. "You're blaming Emily, the one person who actually stayed when everything fell apart." Dad tried to intervene. "We're just saying maybe you should reconsider who you let into your life. Emily's made you—" "Stop!" I interrupted, voice shaking. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to rewrite the story because it makes you uncomfortable." Mom's voice cracked. "We're trying to save this family." "No," I said, tears welling in my eyes. "You're trying to pretend it's not broken." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through bone. Finally, I took a deep breath. "If you really mean what you said, if you'd rather skip your daughter's wedding than admit Sarah destroyed our family, then fine, don't come." Mom's face crumpled. "Cynthia, please, no," I said firmly. "This is my line. You can either respect it or you can stay home. But I'm done being the one who bends so everyone else can feel comfortable." They both looked at me like I'd become a stranger. Maybe I had. Maybe grief had burned away whatever version of Cynthia they preferred, the quiet, obedient one. Dad stood, his voice low. We love you, but you'll regret this someday. I met his eyes. No, Dad. I regret ever thinking your love was unconditional. Mom sobbed softly as they left their footsteps echoing down the hall. The door clicked shut, leaving behind a silence so thick it felt alive. I turned to Emily. My hands were trembling, but my voice came out steady. Guess it's going to be a smaller wedding. Emily smiled through her tears and pulled me into a hug. Then it'll be perfect. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. The morning of my wedding dawned soft and golden, the kind of light that makes everything look forgiving. For a few minutes before I opened my eyes, I forgot the ache that had lived in my chest for years. Then I remembered. The empty seats, the silence of two people who should have been there. Still, when I stood before the mirror, in my dress lace, trailing softly against the floor, veil pinned carefully by Emily's gentle hands, I didn't see the woman who'd been betrayed anymore. I saw someone rebuilt from the wreckage. You look like yourself again, Emily said, smiling. I met her eyes in the reflection. I finally feel like her, too. The venue was small, simple, and bright white chairs lined beneath an open garden arch, roses and eucalyptus weaving through the railings. Friends gathered, laughing, whispering, unaware of the quiet war that had preceded this day. Alex was waiting at the altar, calm and certain. His eyes found mine the moment I stepped into view, and for a second the noise faded. It was just him and me, and the air between us steady, real safe. But as I took each step down the aisle, my gaze flickered toward the back doors, half hoping I'd see them walk in late. Maybe Mom clutching her purse nervously, Dad pretending to be stoic, maybe one last-minute decision to choose me. But the doors never opened. That small, invisible hope, the one I didn't want to admit I still carried, cracked quietly inside me. When I reached Alex, his hand found mine. "They're not here, are they?" he whispered. I shook my head, smiling faintly through the ache. "No, but you are." And with that, I let them go. The ceremony was beautiful. Short, heartfelt, imperfect in the best way. The air smelled like wildflowers and rain that never came. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, a nervous laugh rippled through the crowd, and I couldn't help but smile because for once, no one could take anything from me. We said our vows under the open sky. His voice was steady. Mine trembled only once when I said, "You've taught me that love doesn't have to hurt to be real." When it was over, we kissed, and the sound of applause felt like thunder breaking through clouds. For the first time in years, I felt light. At the reception, Emily gave her speech, equal parts sweet and savage. To Cynthia, she said, glass raised high, who learned the hard way that blood may be thicker than water, but water keeps you alive. Laughter, tears, applause. My heart swelled. Later that evening, as music played and guests danced, I stepped outside to catch my breath. The night air was cool, the moon hanging low and silver. I looked up at the stars, the same sky Sarah and I used to wish under as kids, and whispered, "I forgive you, but I won't forget." Not for them, for me, because carrying hate was too heavy, and I was finally ready to set it down. When Alex joined me outside, slipping his arm around my waist, he said, "Penny for your thoughts." I smiled softly, just thinking how quiet peace feels. He kissed my forehead. "Get used to it." We left for our honeymoon the next morning, a small beach town far from everything familiar. For 2 weeks, we lived barefoot and sunburned, eating fresh fruit, falling asleep to the sound of waves. Every night I thought about my parents, wondering if their silence meant guilt or stubbornness. I even imagined Mom watching the wedding video someday, crying quietly when she realized what she'd missed. But by the time the plane brought us home, something inside me had shifted. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring. I stopped hoping for apologies that would never come. Our home was filled with laughter, mismatched dishes, and the scent of coffee and sea salt. Simple things, but they felt like everything. One evening, as I unpacked the last of our wedding gift, I found an old photo at the bottom of a box. Sarah and I, arms around each other, grinning with wild hair and paint on our hands. For a moment I smiled. Then I slid it into a drawer, not to hide it, but to rest it. Some memories deserve peace too. Life went on. People often ask if I ever reconciled with my family. I tell them the truth. No, not really. But I made peace in my own way. They taught me that love without boundaries isn't love, it's control, dressed as care. Now, when I think of that old family motto, family comes first, it means something different. It means protecting the version of family you choose, the ones who show up, who stay, who don't ask you to bleed just to prove you belong. And as I stand in the kitchen years later, Alex humming quietly as he pours coffee, Sunlight spilling across our floor, I finally understand something simple and true. Blood isn't what makes family. Love is.